Hey there, everybody. We are going to be taking notes on how to solve percent problems. So this is all following the lesson on how do we find the percent of a number. But this is going to be more particularly, how do we find the other numbers in a percent problem? So there are always going to be four numbers in a percent problem, and they exist in a particular proportion. And the proportion is part over whole equals percent over 100. Now, last class, we learned how we can find this number here, the part, if we know the percent and the whole. But our focus today is more so going to be on how do we find the percent up here or the whole number over here. But this can be used to solve any percent problem, including looking for the part. So if you're looking for one way to solve any percent problem, this is the way to do it. Okay, if you are looking for one way, the percent proportion is going to be the way that you want to memorize for doing these problems. So once we know three of the numbers, we can always find the fourth by using what we already know about proportions. So once we have it in a partial proportion, we will use the side to side up and down or cross multiplying relationship. To solve. And feel free to pause and take your time to write down your notes as needed. No need to try to keep up with this video. Pause and write this down as needed. So we already know that we can look from side to side to try to find a scale factor. We can look up and down between the part and whole to try to find a scale factor, or we can even just cross multiply as we can for any percent or any proportion problem. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's start with the problem. What percent of 90 is 45? What percent of 90 is 45? Now, identifying the numbers and what they are in the problem is usually the big struggle for most sixth graders, because as we can see, we have two numbers here, but the question is, what role do they play in the particular problem? Is 90 the part or is 90 the whole? What is 45 here? So there are some clues in the problem that we can look for to try to help us determine that. And the words are is and of. Now, anytime you're looking at percent problems, we're typically going to find the word of right before the whole, of 90. So we're going to write right up here, whole. We're going to look for the word of in order to identify the whole number in the problem. Now the other word is is. Is going to be often right next to the part. So right next to part up here, we're going to write is. So is a clue word to help us identify the part in the percent problem. So what percent of 90 is 45? So of helps us know that 90 is the whole, and is helps us know that 45 is the part. So let's write down what we know. We know that the whole is equal to 90. And we know that the part, because it's next to the word is 45. Okay, so that then leaves the question, what are we looking for? Well, it's pretty clear in this problem, since it uses the word what percent, that we are looking for the percent. So we should have the part over the whole equals something over 100. So let's write that down. So part, which is 45, over the whole, which is 90, equals percent, which we don't know what that is yet, over 100. Now you might be wondering, why are we putting percent over 100? Because that is the definition of what a percent is. The word percent means over 100 or out of 100. So percent is always going to be over 100. So now we can use the side to side, up and down, or cross multiplying relationship to try to solve for this missing number, in this case the percent. Now, you could cross multiply, because as we've learned, you can cross multiply in any proportion problem, but in this one, you might recognize a certain relationship between 90 and 45. You might recognize that 45 is actually half of 90. So if I want to go from the bottom to the top, how do I go from 90 to 45? Well, to go from 90 to 45, I have to divide by 2. And whatever happens on one side of a proportion must also happen on the other side. So I must take 100 and divide by 2 in order to find this missing number. Now, if you do 100 divided by 2, it should be simple and straightforward for you all. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. Subtract that, we get 0. Bring down the last 0. 2 goes into 0 times. And so our missing number here is 50. So what does this all mean? This means that 45 is 50% of 90. 45 is 50% of 90. We'll do another one, and we'll solve this second one in a different way. Instead of looking for a scale factor, we'll try this a different way. So in this second problem, we will do 12 is 8% of what number? Twelve is 8% of what number? Okay, so we want to look for what we know in the problem. Always look for what we know first of all. So I think we can clearly see that we have a percent. The percent symbol is a good clue of that. Now we have this 12 here. What is the 12? 12 is right next to the word is. 12 is. Now if we look back up top, the word is often going to be next to the part. So I know that 12 in this case is going to be the part. So part equals 12. And we know that the percent is equal to 8. So by process of elimination, that indicates that the number that we are looking for is the whole. And we can kind of figure that out from this. We know that the word of, like it says up here, the word of is often next to the whole. Of what? So of what? Of what total number? So let's fill out our percent proportion. So we know that it is part over whole. We know the part, which is 12. Over whole, we're just going to write the word whole in there since we don't know what it is, equals the percent, which we know is 8. Over, and that percent is always going to be over 100. Okay, so we're looking for the whole, we know the part, we know the percent. Percent is always over 100. Let's solve for this. Now, I don't see any clear scale factors going on here. I don't see a good way to go between 8 and 12. I don't see a good way to go between 8 and 100, but we can always use cross multiplying. So let's go ahead and do that. So first step of cross multiplying is to multiply the two diagonal numbers that we know. So that means we're going to do 12 times 100. 12 times 100, if you do that quick math, is going to give you 1,200. So pretty quick, pretty easy to multiply 100. In order to multiply 100, all you have to do is bump the decimal point back 2 spots. In this case, that leaves a couple of zeros there, so 1,200. Now lastly, all you have to do after you multiply diagonally is to divide by the third number. So take 1200, divide by 8. So we're going to do 1200 divided by 8. All right, let's do this. How many times does 8 go into 12? Because I know it doesn't go into 1. It goes into 12 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. We will do 12 minus 8, and that leaves us with 4. Bring down a 0. We will do 40 divided by 8. It goes into 40 5 times, and 5 times 8 is 40. Bring down our last 0, and 8 goes into 0 0 times. So we multiply diagonally, divided by the third number, and that will equal our whole. So what does that mean about 150? That means that 12 is 8% of 150. Sorry if that division went a little bit off the screen for a little bit there, but you can follow it pretty easily, I think. And that is it for solving percent problems. Make sure you get all of this down in your notes, and we'll see you later.